Alright, so what I'd like to go over with you guys today is how to effectively create one truss file that will work across multiple elevations, and how to effectively do that inside of structure and engineering. First thing we need to do is go into structure, and we need to create our multiple elevations. So I've created an A elevation with just a straight gable on both sides, a B elevation with a hip on one side, a C elevation, hip on both sides, and then I have a D elevation that all I've done is change the pitch on this one to be a little bit different. Actually, let's take this D and let's take this one off here. I'll go over that again, how to go about doing that effectively. So I have my three elevations, A, B, and C. Alright? So the first thing that we do is we take the A elevation, send that over into engineering, and there's going to be some setup involved in this. When I go to create trusses, so from here we're going to go into basics, and this is where everything really gets set up. We're going to turn on this project file. You've probably seen up here and wondered what that's for. This is how we effectively do this. By turning on project, we have this manage, and I've already gone through and set mine up here. So all of these layouts are set up inside the same job folder. By going to Windows Explorer, I've created one project underneath my jobs directory. So open that project up, and that's what my job name is called. I have my A elevation, my B elevation, my C elevation. All my different elevations are contained within that one job folder. And I don't have to copy TRE files from one folder and move them into the next folder. It's all going to be contained within the one file. So all of your layouts will be in that same file. Let's go back over to engineering. So with that, this recognizes all of the projects or layouts, that are inside of that one folder. You bring over the effective layout that you want, A, B, and C in my case here, hit apply, and OK. Now that that's over there, we can say OK to our job properties, OK here, and it's going to dump those trusses from my layout into engineering to that specific elevation. So here's elevation A. I brought in all my TO1 trusses, there's 15 of those, and I brought in my 2 gable ends. On the layout side, I'm going to go to my B elevation, and you're going to want to make sure that you label your trusses the same if they are the same across multiple elevations. So this TO1 was a comment on my A elevation, it's also a comment on my B elevation. There's no difference to it, so therefore it gets the same label. Now I'm going to send these trusses over. Then when I do that, elevation B automatically appears here inside of engineering. I don't have to go through to the basics and set that up. I've already set up all three layouts to be associated to the project. With elevation B, get all its trusses created. And that's done there. Now, elevation B, I have all my jacks, I have all my hips, but I still have my TO1, but instead of having 15, I now have 10 of those trusses. I gave land, instead of having 2, I now have 1. Okay? We'll do the same thing, we'll do it on the C elevation. Switch to C. Send my trusses on my C. Again, engineering switches, it knows what elevation is sending over. Simply say OK, and it's going to create all those trusses for me. Now you're probably asking, why do I have to send the trusses if they're already there and they're already labeled the same? Well, the reason you want to send those trusses over is, yes, they are there, and they are the same, but you have different quantities for those trusses depending on the different elevations. So just because I had a JO1 over here on my C, I have 4 of them on the C. On the B, I have 2. So you want to make sure you get the quantity specifics for that particular elevation that you're working with. Now, that TO1 truss that I had on all 3, if I change anything about this profile, right now I'm in the B elevation. If I come in here to profile and I add a joint somewhere and rebuild this, I can rerun that. save it. Now that truss right there, on my B elevation, I changed. If I switch over from the B elevation to the A elevation, and pull up that TO1, it's changed as well. If I pull up the C elevation, and find that TO1, it's changed as well. So if I make one change to a truss, it affects every single elevation of that truss is on. That way you eliminate the errors or the possibility of forgetting to update one specific elevation. So that job comes up for a reproduction, you send it out thinking it's good, well, it didn't get updated like the B elevation did on the C elevation, and now you have to go out there and make repairs. This will help alleviate those repairs. There are a couple different settings that you want to have turned on. Inside the engineering side, we'll start there since that's where I'm at. Under program integration, if you're deleting trusses out of engineering, you probably don't want to delete them off of the layout a lot of times. So I would recommend you have this option right here turned on. Do not delete truss in layout program. When I delete a truss in engineering, that will allow you to then, in the layout side, delete the truss independently. You can have it prompt you, but a lot of times people don't read the prompts. They get click happy, they say yes, and the truss is gone, and there's no undo for that function. Once the truss is deleted, you'd have to re-input it, or open up the layout if you saved it recently before the deletion occurred. The other setting that I would recommend you have turned on is on the layout side. This one is critical for this process. Switch over here, under Setup, Program Settings, Integrated Engineering. This Communicate Truss Label Changes. If, for instance, you have a truss that you sent over to engineering with a pitch of 5 on the A elevation, and the only thing that's different between the A elevation and B is that the pitch changed. It was still the same layout, but the pitch changed on it. So you take that truss, relabel it from a TO1 to a TO1-A, and you send that truss back over to engineering. What's going to happen is that it's going to update. If this is set to yes, this option right here, if that's set to yes, then the engineering is going to update that label instead of creating a new truss. So instead of having a TO1 and a TO1-A, you'll just have a TO1-A, and you'll lose your TO1 truss. So you want to make sure that when you're doing project files, and really all the time you don't want to have this set to no. That way you're not losing truss in engineering when you change labels. It just goes ahead and creates a new truss there for you. One other thing, when you first set this up, you will have to send over the trusses. So if I create a D elevation, let's just do this here. I would go up to File, using one of my existing elevations I have, and instead of going Save As New Job, you're going to want to go to Save As. Save As New Job is going to create a new folder, and it's going to segregate the trusses into that new folder. We don't want that in our case. We want to have everything inside of one folder. Save As, and I'll call this Elevation B. So I'm taking my C, making it a D. I can make whatever changes I want to make to it, and then when I go to send these over to engineering, notice here it does not switch over to the elevation that I'm on. The reason for that, like it did on the D, the C, and the A, is because I don't have a D elevation associated to my project. I'm going to Basics, go to Manage, add my D elevation to my project. Say it's fine, okay? And okay. Now that my D elevation is associated to my project, let this go through. It creates that project, but it does not put my trusses in. I have to go back to the layout, and I have to tell it that I want to create my trusses. And now it knows to go to the D elevation, and it can stick those trusses inside of that particular elevation. So it's kind of a two-step process. The very first time that you create a new elevation, you have to associate the project or the elevation to the project, and then you can send the trusses into that particular elevation. From the layout side as well, you guys are probably all accustomed to work with PCLs. If you're not, this will be an overview of how the PCLs work. Under your labeling, you can go into create truss groupings. And right now I'm on my D elevation here. So under truss groups, if you open that up, then you have a delivery and you have a production. Under production, I'm just going to use auto group here. If you want to break this down, if this were a large building, you want to make separate dashes. Maybe you have a first floor that's going to ship first, and then a second floor that will ship next. You want to separate those out into different PCL files. You can go ahead and do that by just doing an auto group. It's going to put everything into one batch quantity. Actually, let's broke it up and it made two quantities based on my different label configurations that I have set up here. So let's go ahead and delete this group out. Take my A. It shows me everything that's in the A. I can go ahead and grab the rest of these trusses I'm going to add in here. Make sure that I have everything selected and make this PCL file. I'm grabbing these in order that I select them. You can retain the truss order, combine trusses. There's different options on how you make these PCLs. I'll make sure I grab all these as well. Now I've got everything. Now I've got everything in my PCL files that I want. I can go ahead and make sure that this create PCL file is turned on. Then I'm going to output that PCL file. When I do that, when I call that production A, I could have went ahead and rename that. I'll go ahead and do that now. I'm just going to call this elevation D. And now I'll go ahead and output that. When I output that PCL file, inside of Windows Explorer again, I now have an elevation D, PCL file, and DCH file. I also have the production A that I created previous to renaming it. So that PCL file can be used inside of MBA or inside of CyberStore to go ahead and send the trusses for that specific elevation out for production or import into MBA for pricing on an individual elevation basis. That's kind of an overview of the project file, some settings that are critical to that working for you, how to create one truss that's shared across multiple elevations effectively, how to make a PCL file and use that file to bring in trusses to a specific set elevation. One thing I think I failed to point out is not only does it give you the quantity-sensitive trusses to each specific elevation, but you can come into the folder for that entire project, and that will list every single truss in the job, whether it's on the A, the B, the C, the D elevation, and it will put everything at a single quantity. Since the quantity is different from elevation to elevation, you can use this right here to send off the entire project for seals and get a single quantity that everything comes back. That way you're not worried about specific quantities when you're sending off the seals or having to send off the same truss multiple times for each different elevation. Send everything at one time, and get it all back, and then be ready to go. So again, that's the project file inside of Structure and Engineering. This is Mike Christian. If you need any additional help with this or you have questions, feel free to contact me. My direct line is 951-254-2612, or you can email me, mchristian@mii.com, or as always, our tech support team is available to help out. 1-866-MiTek-TS. Have a great day.